අද්විතීය 200 Mbps ස්පීඩ් එකකින් ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ වේගවත්ම සහ පුළුල්තම හෝම් බ්‍රෝඩ්බෑන්ඩ් සම්බන්ධතාවය වන SLT මොබිටෙල් දේශීය ෆයිබර් බලවේගය ඔබත් අදම අත්විඳින්න.
හරිම සුදුයි.
Tonight on First at 9, this Saturday the 10th of June 2023. Relaxed. Government allows the importation of over 300 items that were banned with effect from yesterday. Quality of service. Tourism is a part of Sri Lanka's growth policy, says President Ranil Wickremesinghe.
We'd like you to maintain a high standard and even have a higher standard.
Highlights the importance of improving human resources in the tourism sector.
We will also help by starting one school, specifically maybe in Kandy for cuisine and culinary work.
Alliance Finance මෙතුරු රන්නයි සේවාවෙන් රන් පවුම්කට රුපියල් 1,70,000ක ඉහළ අධිකාරම.
ඔබේ විශ්වාසය දිනු සෙන්සුරයින් දැන් ළඟමැති ෆාමසියෙන් ලබාගත හැක.
This is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9. I am Shanella Fernando in your top stories for tonight. The government issued a Gazette notification relaxing import restrictions imposed on more than 300 items, including electric appliances, sanitary ware, wooden materials and food items. The relaxation of import restrictions came into effect yesterday. According to the Gazette notification, goods imported under the mentioned HS codes during the time period from the 16th of April 2020 to the 8th of June 2023 in violation of the import and export regulations will be released by Sri Lanka Customs, subject to an additional fee of 15% of the CIF values of such goods.
The government has relaxed import restrictions imposed on more than 300 items, including electronics, food items, wooden materials, sanitary ware and several others. The easing of import restrictions for goods designated under 286 HS codes was effective since yesterday. The communique was issued by President Ranil Wickremesinghe in his capacity as the Minister of Finance, Economic Stabilisation and National Policies. The Gazette notification also amends the regulations published in a previous Gazette issued on the 1st of January this year. Accordingly, import restrictions imposed on fish, fish fillet and other value-added fish-related products, yogurt, buttermilk, drinking water and other non-alcoholic beverages and food items such as cocoa have been relaxed. Further, restrictions imposed on several bathroom fixtures such as shower bath, sinks, wash basins and lavatory pans and similar sanitary ware were also released. It also includes plywood, plastic board, aluminium-related products, padlocks, drilling equipment, tableware and construction tools including hammers and cutting blades used for agricultural and mechanical appliances. According to the Gazette notification, restrictions imposed on domestic electric appliances such as food grinders and mixers, vacuum cleaners, microwave ovens, toasters, rice cookers, tea or coffee makers and water heaters were also eased. Further, hairdressing apparatus such as hair dryers and hair curlers and musical instruments such as pianos, drums and xylophones are also included in the list. Restrictions imposed on microphones, headphones, earphones, video recording and sound recording apparatus are also released. The Gazette notification further read that any items under these HS codes imported in violation of the import and export regulations from the 16th of April in 2020 to the 8th of June in 2023 will be released by Sri Lanka Customs, subject to an additional fee of 15% of the CIF value of the consignment.
President Ranil Wickremesinghe says that it is impossible to develop tourism without proper human resources. Addressing the Culinary Art Food Expo 2023, the head of state said steps will be taken by the government to establish a school specifically for cuisine and culinary work to improve the quality of human resources in the tourism sector. Further, the President highlighted the importance of introducing a grading system for Sri Lankan chefs to improve the standards of tourism, while also pointing out that tourism is a part of Sri Lanka's growth policy.
The Culinary Art Food Expo 2023, which was organised by the Chefs Guild of Lanka at the BMICH in Colombo, was declared open by President Ranil Wickremesinghe yesterday. This exhibition was organised to showcase the talents of culinary artists from all over Sri Lanka.
The growth policy of the government includes tourism, and to double the numbers, the first stage, go up to 5 million. Secondly, increase the revenue per tourist, which means we have to now go to the high-end tourists. Some are worried whether it's a difficult jump to make. I don't think you have any option. You have a large number of your human resources are leaving the country because it's far more attractive elsewhere. We have at least got to match Maldives in the remuneration. Otherwise, you can't run a tourist industry. To do that, we must give a good service. Tourists come here because they're interested in cuisine. So you here, all the people who man the kitchens and all those who provide supplies to the kitchens are the people who have a very important role. First, we'd like you to maintain a high standard and even go have a higher standard. Be able to make a mark where some of you can even export some of your products to other countries. Secondly, we come to the personnel itself. Who we train in the kitchens, who are involved in the service. So that's the most important item. We have to ensure that we have a sufficient number of chefs in this country as the industry expands. Unfortunately, at the moment, we have no means of satisfying the demand. So the government will certainly help different hotels and associations to expand the number. We will also help by starting one school, specifically maybe in Kandy for cuisine and culinary works. There has been a demand in the south. I think we can have one in Nuwara, maybe in Bandarwala or Ella, and one in Dambulla. We can help you to ensure you get chefs from abroad who has also had the experience to open it to ensure that the knowledge and the experience is passed on to the younger members of this profession. I think we should have some system of grading our chefs. So why don't we have international standards and give a few stars? You can't develop tourist industry without developing the human resources. It's useless giving tax incentives for hotels if they haven't got the chefs to man the kitchens. So the government will most probably in the next 2 months announce our new policies, and you'll be surprised at what changes we are going to make. And similarly, your association and others involved in the tourist trade will get together, I presume, to help us go forward. Remember, we have a good future, and we do so by developing the young talent we have. All those people here should one day become good chefs, work in Sri Lanka. But we have to ensure the conditions here are conducive to them staying on in the country.
While highlighting the importance of women's contribution to the economy, Program Manager of Women in Work at the International Finance Corporation, Sarah Twigg says a study conducted by the IFC last year on the top 30 companies listed at the Colombo Stock Exchange showed higher returns on equity due to more women participation in the company boards. She made these remarks while speaking to Indivari Amuwatta on the Current Affairs program at Hyde Park on AdaDerana 24. Meanwhile, corporate leader Kasturi Chellaraja Wilson says Sri Lanka has to change its laws to make the country attractive for foreign investments, such as Vietnam and South Korea, who followed the same practice. Expressing her views, founder and chairperson of Women in Management, Dr. Sulochana Sagera, highlighted that Sri Lanka should communicate to the world what the country can offer as a tourist destination, such as safety for female tourists.
What are your latest findings and the kind of impact that women make on the economy? And at the same time, has your country's specific agenda changed to match the current challenges emanating as a result of the crisis and the requirements here?
When we think about the impact of women on the economy, and particularly in the process of economic recovery, we know, for example, that when you have more women in senior leadership and on boards, there is a material business return to that. Now, that, of course, has a positive impact on the economy. We did a study last year with looking at the top 30 listed companies on the Colombo Stock Exchange. We found that those companies that had a higher proportion of women on their boards also saw higher returns on equity. So a very clear link between the role that women play in managing and in leading businesses and the types of returns that you're seeing. The more resilient that our large private sector businesses are, the faster that recovery will come. So I think that's a very central part of the process. We see that there's a real opportunity when we're looking at the gender aspect for women to be more actively involved in accessing financing, in accessing other types of financial assets. One of the areas we've been looking at, for example, is insurance. We've been working with an insurance company to actually understand what is it that women need from their insurance, which is of course particularly critical during COVID and now during a crisis. That insurer has designed a specific suite of products that respond to the needs of women and their families, and by doing so also helping to ensure the financial protection of ordinary Sri Lankans, not just at the economic or the private sector level. So we're really looking to what are those levers in different parts of the economy that can help provide the stability that the country needs to move forward, and also providing those new opportunities. So looking at new areas of financing, particularly looking at things like the climate. What are the opportunities for Sri Lanka to be really pushing the agenda on climate? Of course, it's a very climate vulnerable country, and so working with the financial sector on different types of financing and how that can benefit new green industries, for example. So I think we're taking a very wide lens view on the different parts of the economy that can be supported to really support that recovery, and women are central in all of those different elements.
How do we create a safer place for tourism, women travelling to Sri Lanka?
We are still trying to promote tourism, having old laws and not understanding the global market. We don't have to look far. If you look Maldives, what they promote their beaches, but how they promote, anyone can access. The system itself allows them while protecting their citizens. So why are we going to talk about tourism while having the old laws in Sri Lanka? And also Sri Lanka should understand, while we actually protect our culture and everything, we should move forward. We go for all tourism exhibitions, but we never speak about how safe it is for women to travel. We do not talk about how venues can be given for global conferences, how they can have an event in an island. Are we really highlighting what the tourism is? I have not seen that. Look at it positively. Otherwise, Sri Lanka will always talk about tourism, but we do not go beyond the tourism actually we are looking in.
Why we should together address these laws now and not be discouraged that this is never going to happen?
From a government, so far, we see that there seems to be, while there's tension for tough calls, but they seem to be more or less supporting. And that's where it lies. So the need is there. The will from the private sector and the public, citizens at large majority is aligned. And the big question which has brought the country successively is politics, right? We've taken policies which are politically right and which gives them a license to be elected. I think that is a responsibility of every politician, every leader. And what I tell all the time, can we put country in the center? And that's what's needed. I guess why from the private sector we need to do these changes? A, like I said, we need to be more efficient. B, we need to attract dollars in and have access to markets, which means you need FDI, which means that you need to be attracting investments from people around who could want to play in this region. Don't go too far. Look at Vietnam, look at Korea. What did they do? They wooed investors and brought in. They changed laws to allow the investors to succeed there. Today we are in a position, there is a China +1. Why can't we play in the +1? Or you align with India and try and get investment here. But they need to take some calls and choices. They can't be going out doing research and analyzing for years, because this moment and this opportunity will pass if we don't do something about it. So the laws which are archaic is very relevant. It's not only tourism, from labor laws to in the manner in which we import and export, all that has to be re-looked at with the view of how can we accelerate and become an attractive destination for investment and market access for the region. As Sri Lankan companies, we should be open for others to come in and invest here and be part of it. That's needed.
Member of the Public Resources and Human Rights Protection Centre Attorney at Law Swastika Arulingam expressed objections relating to the privatization of Sri Lanka Insurance Corporation, claiming that the government is trying to sell profit-making institutions under the guise of economic recovery. Addressing a media briefing of the Public Resources and Human Rights Protection Centre yesterday, the human rights activist stated that the labour law reforms which are brought forward by the government will be opposed by the trade unions as they will create work conditions similar to slavery.
Sri Lanka Insurance Corporation, like Sri Lanka Telecom, is a profit-making institution, and the Ranil Wickremesinghe government is trying to sell it off, sell a profit-making institution in order, they claim that it is to come out of this crisis. Even by their own records, there is no mandate for them to sell state-owned assets, and particularly profit-making state-owned assets like the Sri Lanka Insurance as well as the Sri Lanka Telecom, because the government holds these properties in trust of the Sri Lankan people. We also tell the government that you're bringing in labour law reforms which is anti-worker, which is going to end up with slave-like work conditions for workers, including women. And you're also trying to privatize profit-making state-owned institutions in complete violation of the trust which you hold these properties on behalf of the people. And we as trade unions will stay together and we will fight and we will oppose this until you stop this undemocratic and unpeople activities which the Ranil Rajapaksa government has been committing since they have come to power.
Minister of Buddhasasana, Religious and Cultural Affairs, Vidura Vikramanayaka said that his ministry is committed to protecting the National Archives, adding that it is a hidden treasure. Addressing a gathering in Colombo yesterday, he further went on to say that there will be more financial allocations to protect archives via the budget next year.
The International Archives Day 2023 was celebrated yesterday at the auditorium of the National Archives under the patronage of the Minister of Buddhasasana, Religious and Cultural Affairs, Vidura Vikramanayaka.
I believe that there cannot be a future without reforms. Therefore, we have to reform not only on institutions, not only on the workload of an institution, and also of the principles that govern the institutions. We are ready to do the reforms. History is there for us to learn lessons, and histories are past by which the future is molded. Without history, without past, there is no present, no future. So with archives. As the minister who is in charge of the subject and of this department, without any hesitation, I pledge my fullest support for archives. And by next year, we could see that the budgetary allocations will be much more than you think. And I think this is a treasure that we have not taken any notice. It is high time that we take notice and let us mold our future according to the archaeology archives. We are in the process of looking at the laws that governs the archives. And we are also listening and taking advice from them. Rather than dictating, we are more on consultation.
Sri Lanka-Thai Free Trade Agreement to be signed next March. More news on this after the short commercial break. Stay with us.
ගොඩමට පෙරලි කරන බලපුළුවන් කාරයා මහින්ද්‍රා යුවෝ ටීමෝ වෙතින්. වැඩම ගොඩයි ගොඩම තමයි. ස්වරාජ් ට්‍රැක්ටර් ටීමෝ වෙතින්.
අබාන්ස් මිඩ්ිය මෑඩ්නස් සේල් 50% දක්වා වට්ටම් සමග මාස 24ක් දක්වා පොලි රහිතව ජුනි 20 වනදා දක්වා පමණයි.
තනිව යන ගමනට නිවැරදි ගිණුම් කරන මග හේමාල් පෙරේරා. ඔබේ වෛද්‍ය ඉංජිනේරු සිහිනය සුරක්ෂිත දෑතකට ෆිසික්ස් සමිත රත්නායක.
Welcome back in more news. Sri Lanka's chief negotiator of free trade agreements, KJ Veerasinghe, is hopeful that the government will be able to sign a free trade agreement with Thailand by March 2024. For further discussions on the Thai-Sri Lanka FTA, a Thai delegation is expected to visit Sri Lanka on the 26th of this month.
Speaking to AdaDerana, Sri Lanka's chief negotiator of free trade agreements, KJ Veerasinghe, said that the government expects to sign the free trade agreement between Sri Lanka and Thailand by March next year. Veerasinghe said a Thai delegation is expected to visit Colombo from June 26 to 28 for another round of talks which will be on economic cooperation. In a bid to rebuild the country's economy and boost exports to foreign markets, Sri Lanka restarted negotiations on Thailand-Sri Lanka FTA in January after a 4-year hiatus. On 26th of March, a 35-member Thai delegation led by the Director General of the Department of Trade and Negotiations arrived in Sri Lanka for another round of talks which focused on areas such as trading goods, trading services, investment, rules of origin, customs cooperation, trade facilitation and economic cooperation. According to President's Media Division, signing a FTA with Thailand aligns with President Ranil Wickremesinghe's vision on enhancing economic relations with large and emerging economies with a particular focus on ASEAN countries.
Minister of Agriculture Mahinda Amaraveera says that in the future, laws will be imposed to regulate the prices of chicken and eggs. These remarks were made yesterday following a discussion held between the minister and the Poultry and Egg Producers Association at the Ministry of Agriculture.
A discussion on the increase of prices of eggs and chicken was held between the Minister of Agriculture and the Poultry and Egg Producers Associations yesterday at the Ministry of Agriculture premises.
බිත්තර මිල ඉහළ යාම සම්බන්ධවත් විශේෂයෙන්ම කුකුල් මස් ඉහළ මිල ඉහළ යාම සම්බන්ධවත් අපි ශේෂ්ත්‍රයට දාලා නිලධාරීන් සහ ඒ කටයුතු වල යෙදෙන අය ගෙනල්ලා සාකච්ඡාවක් කරා. ඔවුන්ට අපි අද පැහැදිලිව කිව්වා වෙළඳ අමාත්‍යාංශයේ මගින් බිත්තර ආනයනයට තිබෙන බාධා ඉවත් කළා. ඒවා සඳහා අවශ්‍ය කඩිනම් අනුමැතියන් ලබා දෙන්න කියලා නිලධාරීන්ට උපදෙස් ලබා දුන්නා. ඒ වගේම කුකුල් මස් මිල ඉහළ යාම පිළිබඳව අපි අවධානය යොමු කළේ. සඳහා යම් මට්ටමක මේක පාලනය කරගන්න වැඩපිළිවෙලක් පිළිබඳව අද අදහස් අරගත්තා. අපිට අවශ්‍ය වුණොත් ඉදිරියේදී නීති රීති පනවමින් හෝ මේ ජනතාවට මේ සාධාරණ මිලකට මේ අවශ්‍යතාව සම්පූර්ණ කරගන්න අපි ඉඩ දිය යුතු වෙනවා. ඒ සඳහා අවශ්‍ය කටයුතු කරන්න පාරිභෝගික අධිකාරියත් ඒ වගේම වෙළඳ අමාත්‍යාංශයත් ඒකාබද්ධව අපි කටයුතු කරන්න බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා. ඒ වගේම විශේෂයෙන්ම මේ හදිසි මිල යාමට හේතුව අපිට පැහැදිලිව පේනවා මේ මාළු මිල ඉහළ යාම නිසා කුකුල් මස් වලට විශාල ඉල්ලුමක් ඇවිල්ලා තියෙනවා. ඒ නිසාවෙන්ම අනිසි ලාභයක් ලබා ගන්න බවත් අපිට පැහැදිලිව පේන්න තියෙනවා. ඒ පාලනය කිරීම සඳහා අවශ්‍ය පියවර ඉදිරියේදී වෙළඳ අමාත්‍යාංශයත් සමග ඒකාබද්ධව ගන්න බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා.
With that, we wrap up tonight's edition of First at 9. Thank you for joining. I'm Shanella Fernando. Have a good night.
For news and information you can trust 24 hours a day, visit AdaDerana.lk.